So it's 7 o'clock now, and I'd like to welcome everybody to our Advanced GIS Certificate info session. We have some really great stuff on our agenda for tonight, and I'd like to welcome all the attendees that are here. And I'd also like to introduce some of our panelists. Our agenda for tonight is we'll have some introductions, we'll meet the instructor, we'll learn a little bit more about her story, GIS careers, we'll have a review of the module, different ways that you can access funding through financial aid and student loans, a little bit on the transfer credit, and then at the end we'll have a Q&A. So to start off with, my name is Mandy Bell, and I'm the Okanagan College Program Coordinator for the Salmon Arm Revelstoke area, and I'll be your host for tonight. We also have Christy Gels, so she works in Vernon as another program coordinator, and she's kind of my behind the scenes guru. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat or the Q&A, and she'll be answering them for you. We have Shelley, who is our GIS instructor, and then we also have an alumni, Kelly, as well. So to start off with, I could get Shelley to unvideo herself, perfect, and she could introduce herself to you and give a little bit of background about herself.
Hey everyone, I just saw how many participants there are. There's actually quite a few of you, which is really awesome to see. My name is Shelley. I am the instructor of the program. This will be my 4th year teaching the program. I also actually currently own my own mapping company as well. So that's kind of cool to be part of the industry in that way. I've worked in forestry. After I graduated, I basically got a job right away as a GIS technician and have been working in the forestry field as a GIS technician, and then moved into a GIS analyst position for the last 8 years now. So it's getting up there. I started off with a Bachelor of Arts in Geography, and then kind of was like, okay, so I have this general degree, what am I gonna do with it? And so decided to move into the path of GIS. I ended up getting my diploma of GIS from BCIT. And then from there, I have worked since graduating from there. And I am currently working on my Master's of GIS through VIU as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much for all that. So Shelley's been amazing. She has been our instructor for a few years, and our students absolutely love her. She's very outgoing. She's there always to help the students. I know that she's been there really late at night to answer emails, although that's not her favorite thing in the world to do. She is there for the students. So she's an amazing instructor, and you guys would love her. So what can you expect? What could you expect as a student from GIS? So Shelley, maybe you could clarify some, I know there's some myths out there. What really is a GIS?
So when we're working with GIS, some people come into our program thinking, oh, I'm going to be out in the field, I'm going to be collecting the data, I'm going to be surveying, but that's not what GIS is. We definitely work with data from the field, and there are definitely people that go out into the field and collect the data and work with it, but primarily the people that get hired as GIS technicians will be the people that sit at the office all day long, get that data that comes in from whoever's bringing it in from the field, and we process that. So whether that is making maps for them or answering more questions about the data. So we're really looking at the data that is behind maps that you see and analyzing that and providing answers to our clients. That's what we do from GIS. So the course is, you will be at your computer. That's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be making maps. We're going to be looking at data. There is a brief section where we get to go out for about a week and work in GPS stuff, but you'll be at the computer. That's what we'll be doing.
Thank you. So then some of the program highlights for the GIS diploma. It is a 500-hour program. It's delivered over 20 weeks, so about 5 months. It offers an in-depth education in GIS technologies, and it's intended to take the students with little or no previous experience to an advanced level of understanding. So this program does require that students complete at least two major projects, and this would demonstrate their knowledge of the topics covered. And then there'll be a blend of theory and practical applications that are more industry specific. So I do know that it's going to be online, but Shelley has some really great ideas to make sure that the practical application of this online program really benefits you as a student. And then it will also prepare you to work in resource industries, in the government, or First Nations organizations. So as a career, what could you do with this certificate? So I'm going to get Shelley to firstly start, and then we also have our alumni, Kelly, and he's going to finish up maybe some of the things that he's doing in his career right now. So Shelley?
So for careers in the industry, I do notice that a lot of, especially in BC, we see a lot of forestry companies hiring for GIS. That's a big one. That's probably, I'd say, one of the main industries that hire GIS within BC. You're also looking at municipalities. If you want to go out into Alberta, there's tons of oil and gas people that get hired doing GIS. Actually, you see this map that one of my students made last year during the course that you see on the screen. So that's how we kind of can work with this data that we get for different areas of BC. So this was at this beginning in March when COVID was happening. So he started looking at the data, pulling it in, placing it on a map, and being able to create this dynamic map of being able to see what's going on. And he put this on the web as well so people could pan around and look at it. So those are some things that you can actually see when you're working with GIS data. What other ones? And as Mandy mentioned, like I work with First Nations. I work with a lot of First Nations. So those are people that really benefit from using GIS just because they have their different values that they map out, or whether they're working with their land and they want to be able to see that. So those are different areas that you can get into.
Perfect.
With GIS.
And then we also have Kelly. So he is a previous alumni student from last year. And maybe Kelly, you could describe, what do you do for work right now?
I work in forestry as a GIS tech. So we have field crews that go out and collect data, layout blocks, do cruises, all that kind of stuff. So they bring everything back, throw it on the server, and I put it into our client system. We have 3 main clients, and yeah, I put it into the system, make sure it's attributed correctly, and then make maps out of it. So to different levels depending on which client it's for.
And whereabouts are you located? Are you in the Okanagan region?
I'm in Clearwater.
In Clearwater. Okay,
yeah.
Awesome. And then you took your course here in Salmon Arm last year and had to move online, right?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. That's great. Thank you so much. So then our next slide is we're going to ask Shelley to go through the components. So I know it looks like there's a lot of components, but some of them are short. Some of them are anywhere from like 2 days to a week, and some are actually quite a bit longer than that. So maybe Shelley, you could give us just kind of a brief overview, a high-level highlight of the courses.
Yeah, so I actually went through all of this today and wrote it out, and I was like, it's going to be super brief. And then I was like, I can't really be as brief as I can. So when we start out, we start with the GIS 101, the GIS Essentials course, and we kind of learn how to navigate around the system. So this one is our longest course. This one runs about a month, and we dive into each portion. So how do we add legends to our map? And how do we make a map? And there's these attributes. What do we do with them? So we really dive into each section as we build on how to use that GIS system that we are then going to use for the rest of the course. Then we look into how to edit the data and make new data. And then we talk about some project management issues. So how do we write a proposal? How do we build up these projects that we're going to be working on? So once we kind of cover all those basics, then you get to work on your first GIS project, which I have always found is where the students, there's always some frustration in that first month learning the program, but then they start working on their first project and go, oh, it all makes sense to me now. So the project portions are really, really beneficial for you to actually dig in there, figure out what's confusing you and just sort through it yourself. You basically pick your topic and you run with that. On your first project, you're just making a map, but you're learning those tools at the same time. So once you're done your first project, then we'll move on to, so kind of play with the schedule a little bit here because GPS is right there, but we're usually covered in snow at about that time. So we're gonna push that a little later into the year so that you can actually go out and collect some data and work with GPSs and not be trudging through 3 feet of snow, which nobody really likes. Well, unless you go like snowshoeing. And then we have our analysis and automation. So some people really like this section because now we're looking at the data, not just making maps. So we start analyzing data. We're making new data out of the data where we actually start writing Python scripts. So Python is a scripting language that we use, which helps us automate our data and just allows our data to be even more powerful. Then where do we go after that? Then we actually will pull into raster analysis at the same time. So rasters are your images and your pixelated data. So we can look at that a little bit differently as well. And then we take a look at some databases and how do we connect to databases in GIS and what's an enterprise. So in a company, you'll have more data that's all connected with everyone. So how do we work with multiple users and multiple data sets? And then we have a little bit of fun. So then we have your second GIS project to then incorporate everything you've taken from the beginning and put that all together. And then the last half, we do some 3D modeling, we do some animation, we make some map books, which are very similar to like a Backroads map book. And then your final project, after we kind of go through all of that stuff, I kind of give the students a couple options. So we have the option of having a project very similar to your first and second projects where you pick a subject and you run with it. But I've also given the students an opportunity to maybe you know somebody who runs a company, or maybe I can find some sources of companies. And I'll get you to work with a company and do a 2-week project, maybe finalizing up something that they've been wanting to get done in their company. They just haven't had the time. Kelly actually last year did that option. I was able to find from an old coworker a project that he completed for them. And I think that just gives you a better look at how do you work with someone else? So you've been working with me for 5 months at that point. You know my expectations, but now you get the chance to work with someone else and maybe they don't describe things as easy. Well, that's going to be the real world. What's your getting out into a job, someone that's not there holding your hand, or they're just like, well, here's something to do. So I think that gives a little bit of that practical work experience, even though it's such a short period. It's a good look into what work would actually look like once you're done.
Perfect, thank you. Oops. So then the program cost for this, so the tuition is just under $8,000, $79.54. There's about $100 in material fees. I know that this year, Shelley is working on creating her own textbook. Just makes it more compatible with the program, more compatible with how she wants you to learn and the learning outcomes as well. You will need a laptop, a laptop or a desktop, a webcam, and a mic. It's really preferable if you could have at least 2 screens. You can work on one, but I would think it would be kind of difficult, hey, Shelley?
I've done work on a 15-inch laptop. I have also, I mean, it's definitely preferable if you have a computer with 2 monitors, but if you just have a laptop, it's totally doable. It's just maybe not the best, but you can do it.
Right. And then some of the other, you would have some computer requirements. So once you apply to the program, or if you have questions, you can always get a hold of us. I do have a website link at the bottom that would give you all the computer requirements that you need. We also work closely with our IT department here at the college, and we have, it's called VMware, so a virtual machine where you log in, and then you log in ultimately as if you were sitting in Kelowna, so then you have access to all of the software that you would need even though you're at home. So you don't have to worry about buying all that really expensive software. You will have access to it as a student here. But you do need a computer and a monitor. A webcam would be preferable, and a mic. even though you don't have to necessarily use that all the time, it's really good just for interaction within your own class. So the course schedule for Salmon Arm, it is going to be full-time online. It's going to be January 6th to May 26th, 2021. Monday to Friday, typically 9 a.m. to 2:30, and then there's no classes on statutory holidays. So we are still working on exactly the structure of the online components, but maybe Shelley, you could just talk a little bit briefly on how you're thinking of running this course so that a student's not sitting in front of their computer for 6 or 7 hours a day.
Yeah, so the way I'd like to do it, and the way I kind of ran it when we went online back at the beginning of the year, is we're going to run it asynchronous, which means not everybody is scheduled at the same time. So I'm not going to schedule a 9 a.m. lecture or whatever that's going to be that everybody has to attend. What I'll do is have the lectures posted in video format or maybe just a really detailed write-up, and then provide you a week's worth of what you have to complete in that week. So I'll give you the stuff that's Monday to Friday with tutorials and lectures, but I'll also set up daily, and I have a poll. So when you log into the first time to check out the course in January, there will be a poll set up so that we can determine what's the best time to have a office hours, shall we say. So I'll sit there for 2 hours waiting on Zoom for people who have questions and need some help, and have kind of an open office time set up for you. So you don't have to come to it, but if you have questions, I'll be there available to you.
Thank you. And Kelly, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot right now because I know that you went from being face-to-face and then you were hurled almost like into an online setting because of COVID. But how did you find the structure of it? How did it work for you? I just want to hear kind of some of your thoughts on that.
For me, it worked pretty well. I like putting in long days so I could do, a day and a half, 2 days worth of work at once and then spend, a whole day doing something else if I needed to. It wasn't too bad. I enjoyed being in class more, to be honest, but it did work well going online. It's pretty easy to get a hold of Shelley, and even for little things, just email. I didn't have any problems online at all.
Oh, that's good.
So, yeah, no, it went pretty well.
Perfect. Great. Thank you so much for that. So I appreciate both of you and just kind of explaining how the online would work, because I know that right now face-to-face would be our primary option, but in COVID, we've had to adjust our schedule. So I think that you've done a really excellent job in this, Shelley, so I appreciate that. So then next we're going to go to Work BC. So we have Michelle from Work BC here in Salmon Arm, and she's just going to briefly talk to us about some of the funding options that are available to students if you're eligible. So not every student is eligible, but she's going to go through some of those options for you.
Hi guys, I'm Michelle Klooster, as she said there, and I'm the job developer at Work BC in Salmon Arm. And yeah, definitely thanks for mentioning that, Mandy. I always forget, but just check with your local Work BC office just to make sure that you're eligible, and just to see what resources are available, as each of our offices does kind of differ. It's definitely worth looking into right now. I think it was a January start, Hayes, so you have a couple months. Definitely check into your Work BC right away to determine your eligibility. There's a couple processes and steps that you have to go through to determine eligibility. If you're coming in, December, even before Christmas, trying to get that process for a January start, it's just too tight of a turnaround, especially with holidays. So you want to make sure you have enough time to check. If you've paid into EI, so into employment insurance, in the last 5 years, then you would be eligible, and you log into apply.workbc.ca, sign up for case management, and then you can speak with the employment counselor about the program that you're interested in, the program that you're interested in taking. definitely have all of the information. So it's all laid out really well for you there with all the costs, tuition, books, that have all of that information ready to go. And it helps the process go a lot faster. So if you've paid into EI in the last 5 years, or you've made over $2,000 in the last 5 years, definitely check with us because you might be eligible for supports to take this course.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I did just launch our poll, and it's a poll of about where do you live, your geographical area in British Columbia. So it doesn't matter where in British Columbia you live, you could apply, you can go down to your local Work BC and talk to any of the counselors there. You could also go to that applyworkbc.ca, and that would give you some information no matter where you live in British Columbia, and that will be able to help you out with that. And it will also put you in contact with, if you don't know where your Work BC is in your local area, it will put you into contact with them as well. Is that correct, Michelle?
Yes, for sure. So your Work BC, and if it doesn't pop up in your area, some of them, if they're under a different contract, do go by Community Futures or something like that. But you can definitely check on the workbc.ca site and see what the closest one to you is. If you reach out to them, they're going to let you know if your geographical location requires you to go to a different office. They will be able to tell you for sure.
Great. Thank you so much, Michelle. And thank you for being here
Thank
tonight.
you.
I know you're not feeling well, so thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a good evening and good luck.
So, and then as an Okanagan College student, every student has resources available to them. So we have the financial aid. There's lots of awards that are available to students. I know that this year there was awards that didn't even get handed out because we didn't have enough students to apply for them. So if you don't apply for an award, you will never get one. So I highly recommend you apply. You do get emails sent out from our financial aid and awards office telling you when the awards are open, what you might be eligible for. You just have to log in and go through. It's quite an easy process, but if you do have questions, at every campus we have a person that is dedicated financial aid person that is able to help you. So here we have in Salmon Arm, we have Olia, and in Vernon they have one Kelowna and Penticton as well. So you can call into any of the campuses and ask for those financial aid, and we have those for you. They can help you with student loans. So this program is student loan eligible. I always recommend students that if you are applying for a loan, don't feel scared or overwhelmed applying for student loans. There's many, many grants associated with the loan process. There's grants available through the British Columbia government, but they are tied to the criteria in a student loan. So if you want to be eligible for the grants that are coming out from the government, which there are many now, especially trying to get people educated while they're not working, you have to apply for that student loan. If you're eligible for the student loan, you're eligible for grants and you don't need a student loan, you just take that money, you hold it off, and you take the grant money and you pay the student loan back. So I would always recommend that you apply for a student loan if you need it, because that is how the grant money fits through that criteria for you. And once again, if you have questions, you can always come to me as a program coordinator and I can refer you to the financial aid person who then gives you a call, Zoom meets, and helps you walk through those processes. We also have accessibility services at every campus as well. So if you struggle with some type of learning disability, or you need some extra time on, if you have a diagnosed disability or accessibility need, then you can work through them. It could give you potential tech requirements if you need it. It could give you extra time on exams, but once again, you do have to have that, and you have to go through the accessibility services coordinator, and they will work through the program coordinator, which is me, to make sure that you feel supported and that you are supported on every step of the way. We have an Aboriginal Student Center. We have an amazing person here. So her name is Caroline. She is there for the students. If you have any questions or concerns or any needs at all in regards to that, then she is there for you. We have a learning center. So in our learning centers, we have people that are there to help you get through any of the difficult academic requirements that you might need. So this is more for, say, if you're a science student or a math student, although we do have some components of that, I would say, in our program. They're there to help you if you need it. It's more like a tutoring program for any Okanagan College student. We also have advising and counseling services. So the advising would be for what your educational goals would be, and the advisors would sit down with you and help you get through those. We have counseling services. We know many people are struggling right now, whether it's due to COVID or struggling for many other reasons, whatever it may be. We do have counselors that are available to you. As an Okanagan College student, you have access to this. So we also have, they put on workshops and webinars so that you can access all of this as a student. We also have the library that's available to all of our students as well. The hours are shortened now because we don't have a lot of students on campus, but we do have the resources online through the library where you can access videos and books. And there's just a multitude of different things that our library can offer. I didn't even realize that they were all available, but our library is a huge resource. If you ever have a chance just to go online and check out the Okanagan College Library and what it has to offer, you will be pretty amazed at that. So the next steps for this program is you can apply to the program. So you can go to okanagan.bc.ca and you can hit apply. You will be linked into the Edu Planner, which is the Education British Columbia planner portal. And then you just put in all of your information in there and you would find the continuing studies and you'd find the GIS and you would apply for the January intake. It's $30 to apply. Then once you'd have applied, you will get an email and a letter from the college saying thank you for applying. And then these are some of the admission requirements that you have to meet. So for the GIS, you just have to have a BC secondary school graduation or equivalent, 19 years of age and out of secondary school for at least 1 year. That would be a mature student. So you can either come in right from high school or you can come in as a mature student. Once you've met the admission requirements, then you would just pay your deposit and you'd register and we would put you into the class. So then that's pretty much everything for the GIS. I know that we're going next to questions. So if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A. I'll be here to answer them for you as well. Shelley is our instructor. Kelly, if there's any questions related to alumni, then we'll all be here to answer your questions for about the next 5 or 10 minutes. And then after that, if you have any more questions, sometimes you go home and you think, oh, I wish I would have asked that. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Ask any questions that you have related to GIS and we'll be able to answer those for you. So if anyone has questions, just please start popping them in and we look forward to that.
Hey, Mandy, real quick, Christy here.
Yep.
I had one question and Shelley said she was working on it about the kind of computer that you need for GIS. Like, I'm assuming it's memory wise, like how, like you're not going to be able to do this course on a Chromebook, essentially.
No, so we wouldn't recommend the Chromebooks or a tablet or a phone. You actually need a computer. And in one of the slides, so I will have the slides available on the website, but in one of the slides, there was a link to, I believe it's Esri or ArcGIS. And in that link, it takes you exactly to the page and it gives you a recommendation for what the requirements would be to have for these computers.
Also, when looking for a computer, I found that because I had to upgrade my computer this summer just so I could do everything, I found that video card was the one thing that kept freezing my computer. So I upgraded to a 1 gigabyte video card of RAM, and also just memory and RAM. So I also upgraded to 16 gigabytes of RAM for my computer. Most of the laptops and computers that you can get right now, though, are pretty good. Like if it's a new one, if it's an older one, I would suggest either looking at just upgrading specific parts of your computer. But that link is really good for the specifications and letting you know what computer to use.
Mm-hmm. So I have the link up right here. So it's just at the bottom of the screen. If anyone wants it, I can try to copy and paste it into the Q&A for you. Oh, it's not letting me do that. It just lets me move in between my slides. But I'll post it. I can send it to everybody. When I send a thank you out, I'll put it in the email so that every attendee has it.
And Mandy, are you going to send out the links for financial aid and awards?
Yeah, I will send out all that information. Yeah. So all the links for financial aid and awards and our accessibility services and our Aboriginal services. And then if there's any other questions you have, you'll have my contact information and you can just get a hold of me as well. And it looks like Skylar has a question. So Skylar, if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, I didn't see the unmute button. It wasn't there before.
That's okay.
My question is, like, I already asked it in the Q&A, but right now I'm using a laptop which is kind of falling apart, and I wouldn't know where to start to find a desktop or a laptop that I could use for this course. And I was wondering if either of you knew where I could look to find one for not an absorbent amount of money, really.
I mean, you can find Staples is where I would suggest. You can also go on, like, Dell has a web page. That's when I went to BCIT, I ordered my laptop from Dell. Or like, I know in Salmon Arm, we have a bunch of those computer shops that refurbish things and have computers available at a pretty reasonable price. As long as you tell them what your specs are, they're probably going to be able to find you something that's reasonable. But yeah, any electronics store, Staples, that kind of thing would have computers, and they vary from decent price to a gaming computer that is out of probably everyone's price range.
And the other
So,
thing too, Skylar, I would recommend is I'm going to send a link out for financial aid and awards, but there was awards in there. I know that for students that needed technology. So I believe that the money was exhausted already this year because so many of our students did need it. But that being said, I can see that we would go to the foundation again and ask for another award like that. So I would always recommend that you go to financial aid and awards and see what awards are available. And the other thing too is I don't know how you're funding this program, but if you are getting a student loan, I would definitely make sure in there that you put that this is a technology course for this specific technology, and there may be grants available for it as well.
okay, so is there any other things that we'll be needing besides our computer?
Just like Mandy had mentioned, a mic and a webcam. I mean, webcam isn't even that necessary, but a microphone, just so we can communicate, because I'll probably do any online sessions through Zoom. I mean, a webcam's nice because then when we meet, if we have any time where we meet as a class, we can kind of put a face to who we're working with. But other than that, that's...
Shelley, what about, I know that last year, or maybe it was this year, you were talking about having phones to do their GPS from?
Yes, so when we do the GPS section, because of course we're not going to be able to get you guys GPS units, ArcGIS has a app called Collector, and we will be using that to collect the data out in the field. So either a tablet or a phone, we take it offline, so you don't need to have a great data plan. You just have to have Wi-Fi to come back to sync your data back up to. So that would be the other thing, would be some kind of phone or tablet to have this app on.
Is this app free?
It is. Yep.
Okay. And I'm guessing you'll be sending us a link to use it as well.
Absolutely.
And the one thing, so we do have access to GPS units. If we do need to send them out to students, we can do that. But in talking to Shelley too, a lot of the industry standards are moving towards the app-based system in a phone because everybody has them. So she's going to be going through what the industry standards are, what there is outside of just a GPS unit, because you just never know where you're going to be or what you will have. Right, Shelley?
Yeah.
Shelley, did you see the question here from Sarah?
I was just actually typing it, but I can answer that live right now. So Sarah, I actually really like gathering information about who's in the class. So I know there was a questionnaire that's sent out to people who have currently registered, just asking like what field, what industry are you interested in getting into? Because I'll tailor my data according to who is in the class. So if I have a lot of municipality people, I'll throw in sewer, and I don't understand any of that stuff, but I'll try and diversify it. There's a lot of forestry, of course, that I give out, but because I'm familiar with biology and ecology and forestry, that's where kind of a lot of the data that we use comes from, but I try to kind of diversify it for everyone.
So in GIS, we're pretty much just taking map data and learning how to process it into whatever things we're using, whether it be creating what's basically a heat map over an area for different types of data, where it's like the front of what looks to be a magazine about COVID cases or something there or something there, things like that. Just learning how to process the data both manually and I'm guessing how you mentioned Python,
Yep.
how to automate the process sort of.
Yeah,
well.
exactly. We run through from the very basics of creating a map to really diving in deeper into creating that analysis of the data as well.
We're starting with basics manual and then are you going to be teaching us Python from scratch?
Yes.
Because I took Gateway to Tech a while ago and I learned some stuff like with HTML and such, but I have no idea anything about Python.
We have people that are very even unfamiliar working through a computer system, right up to people who have done computer programming. So we can work with all skill levels.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and the last thing I have to mention is that my name is spelled with an E, not an A.
Sorry about that.
It's fine. It's a very, very common thing. I mean, my uncle has the same first name and he doesn't like it when people do it with an A. It's sort of
Well,
like
and
just a small annoyance, really.
Same as me. If someone misses my E after the L's, I'm like, no, that's not how my name's spelled. So I get it. I get it.
And I think, Sarah, did you have a question? Did you want to speak?
No, I just I didn't know how to unmute myself, and I just wanted to thank her for answering my question earlier.
welcome.
I don't see it anymore. Yeah. But thanks.
Jolie, we have another question from Carson.
Yeah.
Will there be an opportunity to personalize our assignments?
Yeah, so I mean, some assignments are just give me what I'm asking for, especially once we get into your projects. So the 3 projects that you do will be completely personalized. You choose your data, you choose your topic, and you run from there. We just make sure it's within the scope of what you can actually do, but definitely. But there are other times with the other assignments where I'm like, find data and make a map of it. So those can be totally personalized as well.
But if I remember correctly, you'll also be around to just give us a few pointers if we get stuck on something.
Absolutely. Like Mandy said, late at night, I will answer things. I have been answering emails at 11, 12 o'clock at night, because I also understand that you guys may not be working you might have things that you do during the day and you haven't started your work until 9, 10 o'clock. So if I'm available to someone in the middle of the day, then I should be available to someone if that's when they choose to work on the data. Obviously, I sleep, so there's a certain time where I won't answer you, but I am always available.
Yeah, I think almost everyone who's been to school, whether it be in the K-12 system or in a college system, knows about the late night school crunch. Yeah, I remember back when I was in grade 12 last year, I had to spend an entire night working on a project.
Perfect. So does anyone else have any other questions before we head off for the evening?
I
So
see that.
Go ahead.
I see that this thing is recording. So are we going to be getting a link to this recording?
I can definitely send you a link to the recording. It will be on our Facebook page, or not our Facebook page, but it will be on our Okanagan College. We have an info session page, so it will be on there as well. But I will send an email out to all of the attendees tonight, and I will include the slideshow in a PowerPoint in a PDF for you. And then I'll also give you links with everything that you need. And then if you do want the Zoom information, it will be in there as well.
So you'll be sending us an email with like general summary of the meeting, link of the meeting, as well as links to all the websites and pages that you've mentioned, like your GIS page and everything like that, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I just like to have everything straight in my head.
That's okay.
I meant to actually respond to Sarah by typing, but I hit live instead, so I will answer you here. I would love it if you used the data from your projects in the course. That would be fantastic. So yes, absolutely, 100%.
Yay. Thank you.
No problem.
And for Kelly's question, how many students can apply? So we still have room in our program. We usually have at least about 10 students, so we would like to have at least 10, but we can definitely have more than that. It's online, so we don't have to worry about COVID protocols on campus. So I would apply. If you're interested, I would definitely apply sooner than later because we will have a cap set on the course. And for Sheila, the number of, so that kind of answers Kelly's question. The application deadline is either up until probably a couple weeks before the start of the program, just to make sure that all the students have everything that they need, or unless it fills earlier. So if we hit that cap earlier, then that's when the deadline would be. So that's why I always recommend that you apply as soon as possible to the course.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and Shelley, I remember you mentioning that for the last, I think it was directed project, that you gave the students options, whether it's making a personal project or working for a company to do a project. What were the details of that working for a company part? Like, is it volunteer? Is it paid? Is like what
No,
kind of
it
things?
is strictly volunteer. We only have 2 weeks for the project, so it's not like a work placement thing. You don't actually go to the company. It's if they had a small project, and maybe Kelly can actually talk about what he did for Foresight. And just for as an example, but there's been with the CSRD, so that's our regional district, the couple years ago, they gave out a couple projects where people just had to look at slope inclines on a trail and run an analysis on that. Kelly, I'll let you speak.
Yeah, for my project, Shelley put me in touch with a guy from Foresight, and what I did is I wrote a script to calculate the travel times to various locations for fire escape, basically. So it took all the points of every building in town, and I think there was 4 different routes out of town to different places that the evacuees would go depending on where the fires were. And the script calculated travel times from each building to each other city and gave the best route. So that was what I did.
And that was just, I had inquired, hey, do you have anything that is sitting around that you need done, that you don't have time for, that one of my students could tackle, that's meets these criteria. So some years there actually may not be anything, but if you had someone or wanted me to reach out, definitely can look into something.
So like a small volunteer project that a student can tackle where it doesn't fully matter if it's really competent and good or not. It's just something that is more realistic as a job instead of doing something on your own time.
Yeah, exactly. And I give the heads up that, we only have 2 weeks. They may not complete the project, but at least they can give you a foundation of whatever it is that they're working on.
Or at least give it a shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
I definitely recommend looking into options well beforehand. I started looking at things only 2 weeks before the project had to start, and I had a lot of people that were interested and no one could get back to me in time. So definitely start looking a solid month out.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind.
Great. Well, I would like to, this is the conclusion of our info session, so I'd really like to thank my panelists. I would like to thank Shelley, and I'd like to thank Kelly and Christy for helping me. I couldn't have done it without your help, and Michelle, I know she had to leave earlier, but I really wanted to thank you for being here tonight and answering the questions and just giving us your expertise in the matter. I'd also like to thank all the attendees that were here and the questions that you asked. They're really great questions, so thank you so much. Once again, if you're interested at all, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My information is on the screen right there. I will be sending you an email probably in the next day or two. And I really look forward to having you as our students. I think this is going to be an excellent year. Our curriculum is excellent. Our instructor is excellent. And we have great alumni that we can reach out to. So thank you all very much for that.
And I thank you for setting up this webinar, I think is what you called it. And I am not good at social stuff, but bottom line is I can't wait to start this course, and I can't wait to start working with you, Shelley.
Look forward to having you, Skylar.
Thanks.
Also thank you, Kelly, for giving your 2 cents on what to expect.
No problem. It's a lot of fun. You'll have a good time with Shelley.
Can't wait. Have a good night, everybody.
Okay.
You too. See ya.
We'll see everyone later.
Goodbye.
Bye.